Hi, thanks for joining me. I hope you're well. In this lesson, we're going to look at bass drum independence over the paradiddle. Let's get started. So the paradiddle is a rudiment which consists of the following hand pattern, being right, left, left, left. In these examples that I'll play, I'm going to play the paradiddle at a rate of 16th notes in a 4/4 time signature. I'm going to play the right hand on the hi-hat and the left hand on the snare drum. Now when I come to beat 2 and 4, it will be the left hand that comes down onto the snare drum, and on beat 2 and 4 I'm going to accent the note just so I can define the backbeat within this to give it a groove texture. This is how it sounds. So we're comfortable with playing the paradiddle between the two sound sources and adding that accent to beat 2 and beat 4. Let's now begin by adding the bass drum underneath the paradiddle. We're going to start by putting the bass drum on beat 1 and beat 3. Already, just by adding those two bass drums on 1 and 3, we have now defined the rhythm. We've got the downbeat being played on beat 1 to mark the start of the rhythm, the backbeat accented on 2 and 4, and the extra bass drum on beat 3. This gives it more of a feel to move to and gives it that sense of the groove. Let's now add an extra bass drum onto the an of beat 3. By adding that extra bass drum on the an of beat 3, that thickens up the groove already. Let's now displace that note by a 16th, so we're now going to play the bass drum on the da of beat 3. So we can hear, just by displacing that by 1/16th note, that completely changes the feel of the rhythm. Let's now add a bass drum to the an of beat 3. So we have the bass drum coming on 1, 3, the an and the da of beat 3. With those bass drums being placed around beat 3, so we've got it on 3, the an and the da of 3, that really thickens up the low end of the rhythm being played. Let's now add an extra bass drum on the an of beat 1. Let's now add another bass drum to the da of beat 1. So beats 1 and beats 3 are now identical with the bass drum placement. They're now falling on 1 and da, and also 3 and da. Let's now add an extra bass drum to the E of beat 4. Now let's add an extra bass drum to the E of beat 2. What's now happening is that every time we play a hi-hat or land a right hand, we're going to put a bass drum with that. Now we're going to clear a majority of those bass drums away. We're now going to place the bass drum back on beat 1 and beat 3. This time we're going to add a bass drum on the An of beat 2. What happens now is that this extra bass drum here is landing with a left hand. Now if you haven't done this before, this may feel quite strange at first, or what I've referred to as being an alien feeling, because we're not used to the bass drum landing with the opposite hand. This is good practice to play slowly before building up the speed and gaining confidence. Let's have a listen to how this sounds. So with this bass drum being played on the An of beat 2, that completely changes the feel of the rhythm, especially when we're playing it and having a bass drum landing with a snare drum. Let's now add another bass drum to the An of beat 4. Let's change the texture again this time. We're going to put an extra bass drum on the Da of beat 3. So the bass drums are falling on 1, the An of 2, 3, the Da of 3 and the An of 4. Now on beat 1, let's do to what we've just done to beat 3 and add an extra bass drum to the Da of beat 1. So the groove is now starting to sound very interesting with these bass drums. Let's add another bass drum to the An of beat 3. So within beat 3, it lands on 3 and Da. Once again, we're going to take a majority of these bass drums away. So the bass drums are now going to fall on beat 1 and beat 3. This time we're going to add the extra bass drum to the Da of beat 2. Now what will feel strange with this is that when we play the double left, on the final left of the double on beat 2, or the Da of beat 2, the bass drum will land with this left hand. Again, this might feel strange to start with. Let's now add another bass drum to the An of beat 3. Let's now thicken up the texture to this groove and add 2 more bass drums. We're going to place this on the An and the Da of beat 1. Let's now add a bass drum to the final right hand of the pattern. So we're going to play the bass drum on the E of beat 4. Finally, let's add one more bass drum to the Da of beat 3. Let's now have a little bit of fun with the examples that have been played. I'm going to play one bar of each example, then jump straight into the next one. So we've now gained some independence with the bass drum over the paradiddle. Let's now take the paradiddle stick in, but revoice it on the kit. In these examples, I'm going to play the right hand on a cowbell, and the left hand is going to go between the hi-hat and the snare drum. Now the left hand will only play the snare drum on beat 2 and beat 4 as an accented note to mark the backbeat. I'm going to take the same bass drum independence exercises and place that over this revoiced paradiddle. So by playing the paradiddle on different sound sources on the kit, it completely changes the sound and texture of the groove that's being played. I'm now going to have a little bit of fun with the paradiddle sticking, and I'm going to revoice it round the kit. I will keep the backbeat, beat 2 and 4, being played accented on the snare drum. I will play some different fills in between the rhythms that are being played, but when I do play the groove, the sticking will always be the paradiddle, right, left, right, left, left. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video. If you have any questions regarding the content that's been displayed on this video, please contact me at tuition@daveforster.co.uk. If you require any further information, please check out my website www.daveforster.co.uk. Thanks for your time. Take care.